Welcome everyone, I'm Lavanya Chari. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Myron Scholes, a true legend in the world of finance. He earned the Nobel Prize for his groundbreaking work in developing the Black-Scholes model, a revolutionary framework for valuing options and managing financial risk. Myron, a huge thank you for joining us today. So let's start with the first question. We live in uncertain times, and many investors instinctively think about volatility as a danger sign, but you have made reference to the concept of good volatility. Can you tell us what you mean by that?
I think most investors worry about downside volatility. They don't worry about upside volatility. The good results, they like good results, in my view. The practical focus for investors is prioritize downside risk management rather than treating all volatility as uniformly negative. We are in a low volatility phase now in markets around the world, with correlations among equities being low and market risk premiums being correspondingly lower. In a high volatility world, which is high downside risk, rewards are excellent and risks are higher. Investors need to worry, however, about leaving a low volatility phase and progressing to a high volatility or higher downside risk phase.
Now, switching gears a little bit, after all the surprises we've had in 2025, why do you feel investors have kept a risk-on approach for so long? It has surprised many of our clients. And do you think the markets have actually learned to live with uncertainty for extended periods of time?
When we think about risk, we always overestimate the risks of the more recent period and downweight the risks of historical periods. And we can compare risk currently with risk historically. And it turns out that we have had very minor ups and downs over the year. And we've had a Goldilocks scenario. Inflation has come down and keeps coming down. Investors need to worry about moving from a low risk to a high risk phase caused by unknown shocks.
Myron, you've guided large institutions for decades. What are some evergreen strategies that you think our individual investors can use to better manage their portfolios during these volatile times?
The two areas that I look at are diversification and portfolio risk decisions. We know that compound returns are what we are interested in as investors. And when we take excess volatility by lack of diversification, and we're not compensated for that excess volatility, and that reduces compound returns. Assessing potential losses and run stress test scenarios are very important to investors. What happens if there's a shock? Are we forced to liquidate as investors? So basically the two evergreen approaches that I look at are diversification, how to garner diversification, and two is how to plan how much safe assets to hold and how many risky assets to hold to be able to weather correlation shocks when markets spike and you're forced to reduce risk.
And in today's economic landscape, do you think the same investment approach applies for both emerging markets and developed markets?
Global liquidity or valuation shocks have a larger effect on emerging markets because they tend to be more leveraged. Some of the premium for investing in emerging markets arises because of the disproportionate effects of drawdowns on valuation if there's a global shock that occurs.
I have a final question for you, Myron. What are the biggest challenges for investors today in assessing risks?
Well, you see, the interesting thing is how much risk do we as investors have to estimate? Right now, we spend too much time thinking about risk as static or unchanging or not measurable. We have to think about how we adjust the risk of our portfolio depending on more current opportunities. And we know that if you can manage your risk, in addition, you will be able to enhance your compound return, not your average return. And compounding is what we as investors are all interested in.
Absolutely. Myron, a huge thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.